Hi everyone, welcome to the Wolf Business Podcast, and it's myself, Josh.
I need to make sure it's on the mic. Yes, it is. Sorry, mate.
Yeah, sorry.
Go.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Wolf Business Podcast. Myself, Josh, and Lloyd, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about hiring staff, giving expectations to staff, how to find staff, and generally outsourcing as well.
Yeah. So we're going to go over some of the simpler stuff, some of the stuff most people in the PT industry would have dealt with, or the fitness industry would have dealt with, is outsourcing certain aspects of your game. Things like a website, a graphic designer, videographer, these things that you need to advertise for your business to develop, which you can do yourself, but there comes a point when you should be outsourcing that for somebody who knows it inside out. The sites you can build a website. There's definitely apps that allow you to build your own logo and to design some of your images, and there's definitely apps you can use to edit your own videos and make your own videos. They're never going to be as good as somebody who does the game, though. There's an app that can give you a workout, but it's never going to be as good as the one that we would give you, because we know it inside out. We know what's best. And it works exactly the same way. So it's just, for those, people are really quick to rush into certain ones if it would work for them, or they think it works for them, aren't they? We know certainly a few people that have spent thousands on a website which have generated nothing in return, or spent very little on a website that have really managed to make them some real money. So it's making sure it's right for you at the time of your business. Don't know, what do you think?
Well, there's two different ways of hiring people, I suppose. There's the way where there's two different types of hiring, I guess. So you've got one where you're outsourcing things like websites, design, even accountancy, all those kinds of things, which generally aren't properly part of your team, but it's a way of outsourcing. And then there's things where it's maybe hiring salespeople, coaches who are actually joining your actual team. So there's two different ways that I'd handle both completely differently. So as far as outsourcing, for me, when you've obviously got a small business, I think as soon as possible, it's key to get a set person in each role.
Yeah.
So obviously we've both used the same designer, and now when it comes to design, it's just one email and that person gets how you work, kind of understand the pricing structure, how it's going to work. They already have your brand, and it's a lot smoother. Whereas say if you didn't have a designer, you just work with different people each time, or maybe work with people that give you the cheapest price.
You get fiver every time. Yeah.
You're actually creating lots more work for yourself. So now I know, I've actually just done it in the last hour, I've sent over a message to my designer, 2 lines, and I know from that 2 lines I'll actually receive what I want. Whereas if I now didn't have a designer, I'd have to send a big email, probably to about 5 or 6 different designers, trying to explain what we're about, our brand, sending them logos, and it would take
a long time.
It'd take a long time to get it done. So that's key to have that in place quickly, isn't it?
One of the things that happens with that as well, when you make the process longer, it can cost you more, because a lot of people will charge you for time spent speaking. If you're trying to get a logo, say you're getting a logo, you go to a designer, because we're just using that as an example, and you give him a brief which is really vague, and he comes back to you, or she comes back to you with something completely other than what you want, and you have to go make them do another one, and they bring you something else back, and you go back and forth 3 or 4 times. They're knocking up these tests, these runs, and you've got to pay for that time. They're working. It's like doing sessions with you. It's paid time that they're going to ask you back for. So it's making sure that you know exactly what you want, and giving them the right brief, just like you would ask for in a consultation process with somebody you were going to work with. You want them to know, so you can design the right program. Again, it works exactly the same the other way around. You're going to ask them for exactly the right thing. Do your research. Look into what your brand should be. Look into what logos you like. Take to them 5, 6, 7 logos that you found that you say it's something like this. You take to them an image, fonts, colours, as much as you can, and it'll make the jobs quicker for them. Not only are you easier to work with, you're going to get a faster turnaround, and you're going to do it for less money. A lot of these people charge for hours spent on the work, right?
Yeah, you need to make yourself as easy to work as possible. I mean, I think sometimes people see experts and they think that they can make the decisions for them or almost create things for them. Ultimately, they're putting your vision onto paper.
Yeah.
We're talking about a designer, for example. So you need to be very clear, like Lloyd said.
Yeah.
Straight away go to them. This is the colour scheme. This is what I've seen that I like.
Yeah.
And trying to make it so that they can almost create your logo, for example, with a couple of attempts rather than they go back and forth trying to do the work for you.
And that's if you're really specific on what you want. Most of us are on a logo, on a colour scheme, on a font. There's ones you're going to like and not like. And the one where it gets a bit thingy for me is what I've had done a few times is video. So we've had a photographer, a friend of mine, took some pictures in the gym while she was there. She took some videos on her camera. She's not a videographer. She took some pictures, some videos at angles. Obviously, she's a photographer. She knows good angles, and she's taken some good ones. But she's not really adverse in editing them and making them look cool. So I've taken them to videographers and just sort of let them run with it. Because at this point, they're the creative guys. They didn't have a really strict process in mind of how I wanted it to look. So I just kind of give it to them and went, here's 3 videos. I want it to make one, and I want it to look cool, and I want it to be a minute long, and just saw what they've given me. And if you're happy to take that risk, then you can. And what they gave me back was great. And I gave them one little tweak, and can you do this and this? And he went, yeah, and it was done. But if you're going to be, you want something specific, you have to be really specific with them.
Exactly.
I think this isn't one we've worked with obviously a lot of trainers, and one I've heard thrown around here and there is PAs or somebody to do your admin. If you can't be specific with exactly what needs doing, your PA is not going to be able to help you. If you go to a PA or you're going to get an admin assistant or anything like that, and you're going to go, I need these invoices to send in, I need this date checking, I need this and this, and you give them a strict line and they can do the work. But if you go to them and you're hectic and you don't know what's going on, it's not going to work. You have to understand where you're at and what service you're getting from this person for the brief to work.
Definitely. So, as Lloyd's touched on there, being as specific as possible, being clear. And if you're not clear and you're not specific, take your time before getting in touch with them. If you're not ready to brief them, then you've got some work to do yourself before you get in touch. So ultimately, try and be as efficient as possible when dealing with people. And if you have a good experience with them, you're going to continue to work with them in the future. And same for them, because they're going to avoid your emails. I promise you that if you're not easy to work with. Because they want efficient people.
Like we've all done with clients. You've done it before when somebody was really hard work and they couldn't tell you what they wanted. You kind of go, oh God, this guy's got back in touch with me, and you'll train them. You'll do the work. But it's the same what they're going to get.
Yeah, and I mean, once you get these kind of people, your designers, your videographers, because that's one that comes up quite a bit, or photographers, obviously, sometimes it's the same people, in that case, your accountants and things like that. Once you get them all in place, it's so much easier. It's probably about one ear for the word, when you just kind of ping some over to them, you've heard from you before.
Because all that stuff can be quite cost effective, you might pay a photographer a few £100, not too bad, in the scheme of things, I pay a designer really regularly, but the most I've ever sent him most I've ever paid him for at once is about £200, and I get a lot of work from him. But it's all over segments, so it's an affordable amount to be paid out. And the way that changes is a website. For a good website, for a good designer, for a good developer, for somebody to run it exactly how you may want it, it can cost thousands and thousands of pounds, a lot of money. So you've got to know what you want. You can't go in there and go on a website, here's my logo, crack on. You need to know, because it's going to cost a shit ton of money for you to keep going back to a web designer. And we know people who've done it. We know, good friends of ours have spent lots and lots of money on websites and not got what they wanted because they weren't specific on where they were at the moment. It's a tough one.
Yeah. So to wrap this section up, then I'd say the top tips from what we've covered so far would be to know what you want first before getting in touch.
Yeah. Do your research.
Yeah. And be as efficient as possible with dealing with them.
Yeah.
Also, once you found the right accountant, designer, videographer, consider them part of your team and look after them and do business with them on a regular basis, so you're not having to find new people. Because once you've got someone you can trust, that's a real asset to you.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else you want to
be specific as possible in a brief? Any brief you're ever given, this is what I need from you, as specific as you can, and you'll get more of what you want back. If you give people no information, then you're not going to get what you want. And like I say, sometimes that's okay, but a lot of the time it's not going to be what you're after. So
another one we're not touching actually is setting realistic deadlines.
Yes.
So
big one.
making sure that they're clear when you need it for, and stick to that. And obviously, if they can't stick to it, they'll tell you. But setting that from the beginning is going to make things a lot easier for you.
Yeah, absolutely. How many times we hear people say, "Oh, I'm just waiting for my designer." If you're waiting for them for a set date, that's fine. If they say, "I'll have that ready for you by Friday," then it's in by Friday. That's fine. If you go, seen a bit, and 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks goes by, and it's happened. I've been there. I've done it before. Made that mistake, and it can hold your business up. It can hold your plans up. Staying away from that specific deadlines is huge on that one.
So if you move on to hiring staff then for your actual team.
Hiring staff, hiring a coach,
where should we start with that? What would you say about, this is a topic where we can only give, obviously no one's an expert in it, and we'll just be giving our tips on our own experience. I think everybody's got very, very different views on this. We're putting our different views in it right now.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of them as well, you'll do what's working for you until it stops working.
Yeah.
So if you have a bad experience, you might change it entirely. So if I have a bit of a lowdown on how I feel about it. So at the minute, I've only hired 4 people in my team anyway, and it's been a major success. I'm really pleased everybody I've hired, and thankfully I've not had to hire any more because of that. But mine was done very informally, so I did regular meetings, and it was a gradual process of bringing them on. But ultimately, the hiring process didn't have to go through I didn't do any advertising or anything like that. I picked it up through contacts of mine and people who I already knew, so I kind of knew the backgrounds and experience, and I almost handpicked the team I wanted.
Yeah.
And then for me, the biggest learning curve has been how you deal with them once they're on board, and keeping people motivated and being fair on both sides, and obviously investing your time as people, because in our industry there's loads of different ways people see it. So I really focused on getting the right people in that I really believe will be with me for the next 10 plus years.
Yeah.
Whereas I think a lot of people, they're not too bothered about how long people are with them. They're happy to have a revolving door. And if that works with some business models, my business model wouldn't work like that. I need regular people that build up long-term relationships with their customers and really buy into our brand.
Of the brand. Absolutely. I think before we get into too much of it, I think you got to make most of where your business is. A lot of people are quick to try and hire somebody to take sessions. I've got 20 sessions, and more people want to do. I'll hire somebody, or I'll hire I'll hire an admin, or I'll hire somebody. And it's part of your brand, part of your team. I wouldn't consider, if I was a one-on-one PT again, and I was in somebody else's space, I wouldn't be considering it until I was like spilling out over the edge, busy, and there's always ways around it. There's always ways of making it simpler for you to do it before you get there. I think some people do it. Some people have people that work for them like that. It's not something I would do really until I've got a proper space, obviously, which I've got now. But when I've done it, luckily, and the same, it's been quite informal because I know a lot of coaches, so I knew the people that would fit in with the group, the idea that I had for the place, the ethos of the company, the atmosphere of the gym. I knew people that would fit into that straight away, and when I've spoken to them, it's worked. I think where you look for them is a tough one. If you don't know people, like obviously we've been lucky enough to know coaches that we think would fit and made that approach. If you don't know people, I think it's hard, because then when you go down the route of posting on Indeed or Monster or whatever, PTs can get lost in fitness instructors, gym managers, all the other sort of roles around fitness, which we've been in or not been in, but what we're trying to avoid sometimes. So it's a tough one, because I used to run and hire for a commercial gym, so I used to be a PT manager at a commercial gym a couple of times. But more recently, only a couple of years ago, for a big chain, and I'd be doing 10, 15 interviews a month, sometimes maybe more, of PTs, and for a commercial gym, some okay standards. For my personal space, my own private gym that I've got, not one of them would have got hired, to be honest with you, in my experience, from those. Although actually, to be fair, Mike, who I work with now, he came from something like that. But at the time, I wouldn't have hired him for where I'm at now. He needed a lot of the PTs that are looking for jobs in places like that. Need the experience of what Mike needed, exactly what made Mike what he is now, why he's good enough to be working in a private gym now. He had 2 years, 18 months, 2 years of slogging it out in the trenches, as I call it, on the gym floor, banging out 20, 30 sessions a week, dealing with members, dealing with clients, dealing with PTs, learning the trade. And I wouldn't hire anybody that's just fresh off a course to work in a private gym. I think it's a big ask for people to do. I think you've got to win your stripes in that sort of way. I do think with as many Facebook groups as around now, UK PTs and UK PTs is pretty much the biggest one, isn't it? All the other type fitness business advice and stuff like that, another big one. Like, so there's coaches there. If you've got an opportunity, if you're looking for one, if you're looking for an opportunity, or if you've got an opportunity to offer somebody, I think they're great ways to get out to people now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this is a way of recruiting through Indeed or other big employer websites. I mean, if I was looking to hire somebody cold, I don't know if that's a real term, but everyone gets what
Makes
I mean.
sense, yeah.
So what would I do? Probably I like informal interviews, basically. Like I did with my guys, I had an informal chat with them all. I wouldn't have called it an interview because I knew their capabilities. So that was one thing to take straight away. I basically went off, had a chat about our vision, and it was just 100% about their attitude towards that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's probably the number one thing to hire somebody on. Not a great coach can be improved.
Absolutely.
But if their attitude, they're willing to do it. Yeah, so the attitude's the number one thing. And I saw how excited they were about the vision, and that was key. It's almost like I was really wanted people that were on board who would do extra if they needed to and things like that. If it was somebody I didn't know, it'd probably be more formal interview followed by informal and practical as well.
Yeah, I think you've got to do a bit of both. Yeah. So I think you've got to know that to take it seriously. So you've got to have a bit of a formal feel to it, so that they are a little bit not nervous, and maybe a bit nervous, and that they're putting on a little bit of a show. Almost everybody has a bit of a show that they put on in an interview. But I want to know that somebody takes it seriously and comes early and comes correct and all that sort of stuff to the interview. But at the same time, I'd want to break somebody down to really know them. If I was hiring cold, as you said, I'd really want to know the person before I hire them, because we spend a lot of time with each other. I got to work with somebody for 10, 15, 20 hours a week more. Sometimes I'm looking at bringing them into my brand. I need to know that I can work with this person and I can get on with them.
I'd be really interested to put that together, to be honest, because I've not put together a plan if I had somebody cold. So I really am against the formal interview. Going through that a lot myself in the past. I really don't think it. Don't get me wrong, I probably would do it to an extent, but then with something else. I think I heard somebody recently saying that if they're going for an interview process, they'll have a formal interview and then arrange a second one, which is a chat, and they have a couple of drinks as well, and they feel like that.
What?
I can't remember who said it. But they have like not get drunk. They have like a beer and almost as if like this is off the record, so they can find out who this really is. There's loads of approaches. That's not something I do personally, but I've heard people doing that, like not almost as if there was a work party and invite them to that and see them in a casual atmosphere and see what they're really like. And then I think shadowing as well is a must.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say go and do a session, but shadowing, seeing how they interact with members and their attitude, how much they want to get stuck in.
When I did this hiring for this chain gym, there was an interview process in place that was put in place by the owner and some of the other higher up trainers, and I actually really liked the process. I mean, it was diluted because some shit people delivered it at some places, but for the guys that made it, and obviously because I feel like I delivered it well, and for the guy I was running it with, Chris, at the time, I feel like it really, really worked. I feel like it was a really good process. We had an informal chat on the first one, and so there was 3 stages. Stage 1 was like an informal chat. This is how the gym works. This is how it works. Walk them around, and you get a feel for them. If you liked them, you give them the stage 2, and that's when you'd give them time to speak to members, and you'd watch them on the gym floor. You'd train them, so you check some of the technique. I always checked that they put the weights back. Little things like that was a big one for me. Obviously, all of it was turning up on time and all that. And then the third one was like a formal interview where they would have prepared a program, and you can go through it and ask them why and ask them justification and stuff. And I think it was pretty comprehensive as an interview goes for what it was, which is a budget gym, chain gym. I think it was a really good way of weeding out the people that just were not interested or were too lazy to do it, or that were shit coaches at the end of it. Do you know what I mean? Because I've also been through interview process for one of the, what would we call it? I'm not saying its name.
Big chain gym.
More exclusive sort of chain gym, where they make you travel for it. It really made you feel like a piece of shit the entire way through it, but it really made me want the job at the same time. Looking back, I didn't really want the job. I was doing it because it was a nice bit of ego stuff, but and it seemed like the greatest place to work. Knowing what I know now, and I know it's not the right fit for me. It's the right fit for some people, but it's not the right fit for me. And I'm glad I didn't take it in the end. But the interview process really made me want the job because it was really hard and really, it was really trying, really testing. And I think it made me want the job more. It made me act up more. But I think it doesn't get to know the real you in that sort of way. I think there's ways between those two, which I think somewhere in the middle where I would take it if I was to do it now.
I think one thing that's because obviously, like, I agree that everybody should have their own process. I think it depends on your personality and how you interact with people.
Yeah,
it
depends on your brand.
So if I decided now to hire somebody cold, I'd put loads of thought into it. I think one thing that's clear is setting realistic expectations at the interview. So almost having this approach that you might not actually want this job.
Yeah.
I'm going to be clear with you what it's about, and then do you know what I mean? We're interviewing each other, and
this is 100% what's going to happen.
I don't want them to just be sat there going, yeah. And like,
you have to do all of this. Are you okay with that?
Even with as once you've hired them and moving on, one thing I've always tried to do is remove grey areas and be really black and white.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100%
really
agree.
clear.
100% agree with that.
Because obviously grey areas leave room for
misunderstanding what it is,
things like that. So trying to be black and white with everything in the interview and beyond.
I think one of the things, so we got where you'd find them, the processes you'd go through. I think one of the other key ones is when to be hiring somebody. So this is one of the main things I always speak to. You know, how many PTs you ever speak to and you go, I'm going to get my own place, or my mate's getting his own place. Where do you make any money from? A lot of people would want to make some money, a decent money, from the PTs, from paying rent. And that's cool, because PTs have to pay rent. It's part of the process, right? We all understand that. And, you know, where it is in the country depends on how much rent you'd be paying and how much you can charge for a session and so on and so on. But a gym driving their revenue through PT rent and hiring is where it can get messy. So if it's not right, if the gym is full, if there's people not doing sessions, if you're not providing for your PTs, or even if it's self-employed and you're just bringing PTs in, having loads of PTs in there generally doesn't look good. We've all been to a budget gym, we've all been to a pure JD fucking lifestyle or whatever, and gone, how's there 35 PTs in this tiny little gym? Like, what's going on? Why is there 10 PTs when there's only enough room for 5 people to be training at once? Do you know what I mean? It comes across bad. If it's your place and you're hiring people because you need the money, it's a bad time to be hiring. You need to be thinking about earning more money in other ways before you start hiring to make that money. I think that's a big one that a lot of people will end up doing, and I think it's about doing it or increasing the rent. With the PTs I've got now, I've got a deal for life. Your rent is never going up. That's the rent it is. I'm happy with it. You're happy with it. I'll make my money other ways. I've got, obviously, we do a lot of group training, so we make our money through the groups. We make our money through my own coaching, through the other stuff I'm doing with a couple of other coaches. I'm not there to be making money off another PT. If you are, that's cool, but knowing when to stop is a big thing because it only pisses people off in the end of it.
Yeah, I think less is more. I mean, I've got a different model of mine. I don't do rent, but
I've got completely different models.
In my case, I always find less is more. Quality over quantity. If you've got a lower amount of coaches that are all doing very well, then all the problems that you raised then aren't happening. You've got people that are all positive. Everyone's doing well, and it can be just as successful rather than having loads of PTs doing the same hours as maybe half the PTs. So I think the environment and the atmosphere is really, really key in terms.
Absolutely, because of it, and obviously it's really it can be really tempting. My rent ain't much, but we're full now. PTs. I don't want to bring any more in, but I've got people that want to come. PTs that I know, coaches that I know, in situations going, oh, can I come and work at yours? And it's really hard to say no when you know some of these people I know, and it's an extra, X amount of money for my company a month. It's really, really hard, but you've got to stick to it. I think having the right amount, like say less is more. I think it's really important. One of the other things is hiring because you think you're a big company. Hiring because hiring's hiring. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because you say you want 6 PTs in your place, and you got 3, none of them are working, and you go, let's hire 3 more.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's got to be a time and a place for it. When to hire is huge. It can't be rushed. It's got to be at the right time.
Well, ultimately, the more staff on your books, the more potential for trouble, really, I guess. Not in that way. I mean, like, more people means potentially more problems.
Absolutely.
So having less in that way can be a lot easier. And yeah, so that's why I'd say less is more. Get the right people. And that works both ways, because if you've got less people, it means you can invest more time into them.
Yeah,
and get them all doing well. That's the way I see it. So I'd always like to try and have. I don't want more people than I can afford to invest time in. When I have staff, I really want to look after them, make sure they're doing well, everyone loves it, and make it the best place to work ever.
Absolutely, I think that's the main thing. It's a tough old game coaching when you're not enjoying yourself. So making sure everybody's happy is just makes everything easier, makes their lives easier, makes your gym, your company better. It comes across better on your brand. Having upset PTs is just never a good idea if you're hiring into your business.
So what would be your top tips then for hiring people to work in your actual team, in your facility?
I would be making sure there's a set process, and like Josh said, no grey areas. It's black and white. This is what I'm going to do to hire somebody. This is what the person has to have, and really getting to know them personally within that process, but having something that you know you can work with them on a personal level, not just business.
Yeah, I think having a process, because I would never recommend the process. I think it depends on your personality and whatnot, but having a process that works for you, having it work to your advantage.
You think it's important for you, yeah.
And also making sure that it's realistic expectations from the beginning.
Yeah.
And anything you agree with them or promise and follow through.
Yeah. And next one is don't rush it. You don't need to hire somebody, and you shouldn't. Don't rush that in, because it makes a bad experience for everybody. Make sure the time's right, and then the amount of people is right, and you get the balance right within your space. Or if you're a coach who's hiring for extra hours, make sure that it's enough hours. If you're doing 15 hours a week and going, I'm going to hire somebody, and you're in the wrong space, it's not going to work. You need to be overspilling almost before you start to hire somebody in.
I think money should never be a motivation for hiring somebody. Obviously, if you're trying to grow, that is money, but at the same time, you bring in a coach, you should be looking at what they're going to add to your service and the quality of what you're offering people, and then obviously in turn that'll bring in more money. But there should be like I said, if you're taking your time with it and you're getting it right, then that's ultimately going to be a good decision long term, rather than hiring fast, not doing your checks properly, and obviously it can all go wrong. If you can do it properly, you might only need to hire so many people, rather than obviously having to go through a journey. Get the right people, take your time with them, invest with them, and don't underestimate how much it can cost you really to keep going through the process over and over, bringing new people in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything else to add to that?
No, that's about it, I think.
So really, that's just our opinions. Obviously, nothing's set in stone. We'd like to just try and the ultimate thing is working with working in a way that works for you. Yeah, your personality, taking your time.
Your brand, your company is the main thing. So making sure that everything that we've said, the websites, the designers, the accountants, their staff, all work for your brand. Without your brand, it's nothing. It's nothing. Your brand is yourself, or your brand is a company name. It's whatever it may be. But that's the bit that people are buying into. That's the bit that stays in. That's the taste left in people's mouths almost, isn't it? So you've got to make sure everything works for that.
Yeah, definitely. Keep your values ultimately.
Yeah.
Remember what you come to the business for, and really understand why you're hiring somebody. And then when you've decided that it's right, obviously follow a set process.
Yeah, that's
one that you've created that works for you.
Good. Right, as always, if you didn't agree, if you did agree, give us a shout. If you're watching on YouTube, comment. If you're listening on iTunes, then get us on Facebook, Wolf Business Coaching, and let us know if you think we're right or wrong, or if you've got more to add, if you think we've missed something out, if you think something shouldn't be in there, let us know. We're always up for discussing it. So yeah, give us a shout. See you next time.